There are days I just want to quit being a worship leader.
For the record.
Welcome to the Worship Leader Hangout podcast. It's good to be back with you. I got Davin here with me, of course. Wouldn't have anybody else. Well, we probably would one day. But it's good to be back with you, man. Yeah, that's true. It's good to be back with you doing another podcast. And yes, just like the top of the video said, or the top of the podcast said, we sometimes feel like we get to a point where we're either stressed out or burnout, and we just want to quit being a worship leader because it just seems like that Hobby Lobby job I had back when my wife was going to grad school is just the best deal. We know it's probably not, but man, sometimes it's tempting. I'll just go back and start doing framing again.
I often forget that you worked at Hobby Lobby. That's crazy.
Yeah, I did work at Hobby Lobby for, a total probably 2.5 years. So some in Florida, some in South Carolina.
Yeah. And I worked front desk at a hotel 3 times.
Yes, you did.
While being a music assistant associate at a church. And then after I got a full-time job and haven't been blessed not to be able to do it ever since. But you're right. Sometimes we want to quit.
Why is that?
Well,
I mean, how do you get to that point, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think the initial answer is often burnout. The way I've been thinking about it is, our minds, our bodies function as machines. And if those machines aren't being taken care of well, then the machine starts to slow down and function and until it reaches the point of exhaustion. And so, and then the machine no longer is working. And so I think that could happen to us. That could happen to anybody in any job, right? But there's a spiritual component to our job, and there's spiritual components to other jobs as well. But the spiritual component for us is like you could feel burned out spiritually, right? You're always sharing what you believe God is laying on your heart with other people, and you're doing your best to refresh others, to encourage them. And if you aren't being maintained, you certainly can reach a place of slowing down, getting to a point of exhaustion, and then all of a sudden you've burned out. And so, that's certainly what I think is going on with me. And so, and I want to be careful because it's not like I want to quit my job. Like, I think I have the greatest job I've ever had. Like, I've told people this is one of the best places I've ever worked at. Actually, probably the best place I've ever worked at. So it's not them or the culture, but it is me trying to find like, okay, I need to be rejuvenated. And how do I find that? So what about you? I mean, we haven't talked about you being in a season of exhaustion, but maybe you are.
I'd definitely say not right now. I felt that way a little bit over the summer. We took some time off from posting every single week, or at least trying to post every single week on the channel. Not because we were burnt out of YouTube or anything, man. I wanted to continue to make videos and stuff like that, but we just got so busy with just like not necessarily spiritual church things, but just church things in general, just things we had to get done and do. And so, just thinking about trying to do both at the same time was very taxing. And there were times where I'm like, man, all I want to do is make videos and not have to do some of this other stuff. So I did kind of get to a point where I felt a little bit exhausted, a little bit burnout of the regular thing. I mean, it's funny because yesterday even, I didn't do this because I want to quit my job or I don't want to be a worship leader anymore. That would kind of render the channel a little bit improperly named. But I did like throw my head in my hands and just said, Sunday is every week.
Yeah.
Every week. Do we realize this? And I kind of did it dramatically in front of one of my interns just to kind of spark a response. Like, oh yeah, it is every week. Just to
Yeah.
kind of see how they responded to that, to see like, okay, do they go, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right, or do they go, it sure is, let's get to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was more, what is that? Is that tongue in cheek? Is that how you say that? Or it was more sarcastic in a way, but then again, it's so true. It's like, yeah, it might be Friday right now as we're recording this, but Sunday is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday's always going to come.
Yeah.
No matter what, whether we're ready or not, it's going to be here. And if, no more than 7 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in a way, it's like, yeah, I kind of get burned out, so to speak, doing the same thing over and over. And that's why we try to keep it a little interesting and, not do the same things over and over. But then again, what does God want?
Mm-hmm.
What does he want in that worship set? What does he want in the service altogether? And should I feel bad sometimes about feeling like I just don't want to worship him the same way we worship him every week, or sometimes I just don't even want to show up? Should I feel bad about that, or should I be like, no, God is so worthy. He's so much greater than anything. I should want to praise him and worship him no matter what,
And
no matter how bad I feel.
Not to harp on the point anymore, but there's an element to this that this is our job, not just like something we enjoy many days, right? But it's a job. And when let's say you're doing something and it's a hobby and you enjoy it, you're going to pick it up when you feel like it, right? Like you're going to, let's say you're a musician, right? But you're not a musician for a living. So you're a musician for your own enjoyment. And you're going to practice in moments when you feel inspired, and it's always going to feel enjoyable. But when it has to be a discipline, then it moves out of that place. And for us, it's often a discipline, right? Like, no one ever really wants to talk about the pastor that does not want to show up on Sunday morning to preach. You don't even think about that. Wait, my pastor did not want to show up today to preach. Like, you never really think about that. Or the worship leader that's like, I got to sing Glorious Day one more time. Like, you never think about it. But for us,
I forgot about that song.
Yeah, it's a job. Well, I'm thinking about that song because I like the song and I want to rearrange it, which I think the church really needs some new rearrangements. Some of the good songs like Glorious Day, So that's another discussion.
Maybe we should do a podcast about being tired of CCM.
Oh, yeah. I've written out an entire podcast.
Kidding,
I haven't told you that, but I've written out an entire podcast on
Good.
Why.
Then I'll let you lead that one.
Yeah. But anyway, so we never discuss, like the possibility or somebody coming into this news, never thinking about the possibility of there's going to come a point in time where it's like, it's not enjoyable, or I don't feel like doing it, right? Let me not say it's not enjoyable, but more so like, I don't feel like doing it. And so the question is, what do you do in those seasons?
We're already there. 9 minutes later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're asking me what do I do in those seasons, because I definitely feel that way sometimes. I wake up on Sunday morning and I'm just like, wow, I really could just stay home and not show up, right? I feel like I could, not like, because sometimes I wake up and I'm just like, yes, I got to get to church. I got to be the first one there. I got to be, I'm just excited to play, excited to sing, worship.
And I don't mean to interrupt you.
Blah, blah, blah.
I'm so sorry, but you reminded me of when I was a kid and I used to play drums on Sunday morning, and no one could beat me waking up in the house. Like, I was so excited. Like, I couldn't wait to get there, right? And then even as a keyboard player, like growing up, like before this became as much of a job, even though I got first hired at 14, I was so excited. And I certainly missed some of that. But
yeah, it's hard to burn out as you don't even know the word burnout. Like
oh
that's
yeah,
not even a thing. It's like what?
yeah,
You don't want to play every week?
yeah, exactly.
Man,
Like
I want to play every week, man. That was me. Saxophone. So you started with drums and then moved to keyboard. I was saxophone and then moved to bass and guitar.
oh wow,
All that mess.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah, and sometimes I still feel that way. Actually, a lot of the time. Like I don't want to say we're burnt out. All right, that's the end of the podcast. Life sucks. No, 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 no. I think one thing that we discussed just in talking about this podcast and what we want to talk about is you have to think about this. There's two ways to think about this. There's spiritually and there's systematically. And those can work together. Those can work hand in hand. And looks like you're taking notes. Yeah, you better take notes. This is about to get
yeah.
good. And uh, what I've learned over time is there's a spiritual component to this that far exceeds everything else. It's your devotion to Christ, what He has called you to do, whatever that may be, whatever season you're in right now. He's called you to be there, and He's given you a job. He's given you a mission. And I mean, obviously, He's given us all a mission to go and make disciples and build His kingdom. But and that's a part of that. But specifically, where you are right now, whatever that may be, choir director, worship leader, music pastor, music coordinator, I don't know, whatever your titles may be, He's giving you that specific task to do something in that season. And I believe that you should go at it 100% wholeheartedly, on fire, to build His kingdom and to build that ministry, whatever it is. And you'll do whatever it takes. And when you have that mindset, when you know you're in the right place, you get this feeling of burnout far, far less in my view and what I've seen. Also, especially if you're in a good economic state, as far as like what state you're in, what country you're in. We talking about being burnout, playing music is kind of silly to some that are in countries and other places that are much worse off. And it's like, what? You're complaining that you make this much money a year to be able to play music with a bunch of people on stage every week and prepare for that throughout the week. Yeah, when you put it that way, I guess I'm not. But then again, these are real feelings and real things, so that's why we talk about them. So yeah, spiritually, just you got to be in prayer and in God's word every single day. And if not every day, then you better make up for the time you missed today, because you have to be in His word. And systematically, you have to put together a list. This is what I've been taught and what I've been told is, what are some things that you can offload from your normal day-to-day that you don't have to do, things that don't necessarily require your touch, that somebody else can do. So the big word in that is delegation. And I like to look at it like this. So there's a list of my tasks, things that have to get done before Sunday. Some things that if this didn't get done, Sunday couldn't happen at its normal state. If you said, well, if I wasn't there this Sunday and this one didn't get done, well, and it didn't matter whether I was there or not, just take it off your list, because it doesn't matter anyway. But the things that have to get done before Sunday, write those down. Make the top 3 or 4, like the most important things, the ones that only you feel like you can do, right? Everything else, draw a line right underneath that 3rd one or 4th one. Everything else from 4 to 10 or whatever, however many things you have, delegate those. Now, this is much easier said than done, and I get that, but when you start with number 4, what could number 4 be? Well, as a worship leader, do I have to do Pro Presenter every single week? Not at all. I don't have to make sure it looks exactly the way I want. I can delegate that task, teach somebody exactly what I want, and it get done at some point during the week, hopefully before rehearsal. And I don't have to do that anymore. That's no longer a burden. But one thing I do have to do, if I'm playing an instrument, I have to practice. Nobody can practice for me. I have to practice vocals. Nobody can practice my vocals for me. There may be other tasks that you're like, no, this is something I have to do. I'm the only one that can do it. But those other things, you've got to learn how to release those things. And it's a very difficult thing to do. Let me just go one more minute on that, Davin. It's a very difficult thing to do when you're just getting started, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I don't even know who to delegate it to. Sally comes in and runs it, but she's not available during the week. Have you asked? She might be. There's this kid, he's 15. He'll mess everything up. Well, no, probably not. He's a gamer. You didn't know that because you didn't have lunch with him. He's a gamer, and he works on computers and builds his own computers. He even hacked the White House earlier. And you got to get to know your people is what I'm saying. These are all hypothetical and goofy situations, but what I'm saying is get to know some people around you that could possibly do some of these tasks, especially like a pro presenter thing, because it's like, well, all I got to do is show them kind of the way I want it. And I'm going to release them to do that and then bring in, some other creativity in that. And it may even be better than what I would have done. And those relationships will continue to grow. I got guys that work with me that have been working with me for 4 and 5 years. And I'm just now releasing some of these tasks, like officially, this is yours. And when you can say, this is your task, this is your thing, when you fully delegate, that means you allow them to make every single decision and they're not having to come back to you for every decision for your approval. Once you're able to do that, that means it's fully delegated and it's off your plate for the week. Of course, you're still ultimately responsible and you can kind of check it at the end. That looks great. Tweak this, change this. Overall, it looks amazing. There are weeks I don't even look at Pro Presenter until people see it on Sunday because I've built a trust with our people. I've gone too long on that. But Davin, what are some examples of this that you've had to give us some examples of this?
Well,
where you've had to delegate, or at least
I'm so more so thinking about the points you made. You talked about knowing you're in God's call, and I think that's absolutely.
Oh yeah, let's go back to that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely essential, because that when you remember that, or you see that, or you sense that in your heart, that honestly begins to remove many of the frustrations you're feeling, right? Like, something? God has called me to this point, right? And like, you're reminded, oh, something? God is with me. Oh, wow. I really shouldn't be as worried or stressed out. Like, that is an automatic tension reliever in that moment. And then just maintaining that perspective, like, the fact that we get to do this for a living and take care of our families, like, that is a blessing. It is important to also understand, like, when you get to do this for a living, it never looks like what you thought it was going to look like in college.
Never.
For example,
it never does.
I thought I would have been this like amazing piano player that everybody would just be calling 24/7 to come and play for them. Well, guess what? I don't play keys at all now. Like, not ever for my church. Like, well, that's probably not true, but I'm not like a keys player for my church. You know what I mean? Like,
I know we've talked about this.
I'm
all I do now.
Yeah, that's funny, right?
We've
like,
switched. Yeah.
I just delegate tasks. I'm more of a manager than anything else. So there is some difference, and I think that's where some of the challenge can come in. Is you find yourself drifting away from many of the things you first loved to do, right? Like, playing the piano is something I enjoy, and I deeply miss it, right? But like, I'm more so committed to the call of God and the gospel and the church, and that means like I don't get to play keys right now. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's just the reality. And that could also extends itself into other things like creative aspects. Like I miss being creative and creating these arrangements for songs. Clearly you guys see like the evidence of that on the channel, but I don't get to do that because of the time constraints and the other requirements for my job, right? So it's like drifting away from so many of the things I first loved, and like having to accept, something, this is what God has called me to do right now. But it's in those seasons of difficulty that we all know this, right? There's great growth. And so we just have to remember that. So I think that's encouraging. And then you mentioned financial. You looked at you said economics, but that could be why a lot of people are burned out, right? Like, that's not why I'm burned out. I'm blessed because of the channel and, play creatively and all that other stuff, and my church job, right? Like, I feel like I'm in a season where, yeah, we're not like financially we're solid, we're okay, and that's not where we are, but that's a reason for a lot of people, like why they are burned out. It's because, quite frankly, churches aren't paying them enough. Like they pay them enough to get, food stamps, unfortunately. And so that certainly is a conversation. And then the lack of delegation. And while I do delegate, I realize there's something about like, oh man, I want to do this. Like I want to make sure it's just right. And you have to navigate saying, something, this person could do it at 75% and it looks great. And just saying, hey, that was good enough. And so I'm highlighting these things really for myself. But I think one last thing that, or something I've been doing recently, is removing clutter from my life, right?
Okay.
And that has been so helpful in helping me like spiritually. So what I mean by removing clutter is saying, okay, I'm wasting so much time on, like, let's say Facebook or Instagram or watching YouTube videos, and you don't really think about it. And I'm a pretty disciplined person, believe me, right? But you don't when you look at and your phone says you spent 6 hours on Facebook this week, you're like, how in the world? And for me, I control my Facebook usage, right? Like I don't look at Facebook certain times of the day and all this other things. And still it says that was 6 hours. That was 6 hours I could have had for doing something that like was rejuvenating for me.
Yeah.
And so removing clutter. And so like something we're instituting in our house, and I talked to Brooke this week. I'm reading the book from John Mark Comer called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Anyway, it talks about the reinstitution of the Sabbath is one of those things. And I'm saying, like, on Saturdays, that my phone is going in a drawer and I'm not looking at it for like 6 to 8 hours. Like, not looking at my phone. I'm not turning on a computer or anything. And I'm just going to like rejuvenate myself, like in God's word, not feeling rushed. I'm taking off my watch. Like, I want no awareness of like time. And that's because like I just want to have freedom away from some things, Yeah. And so these are things that I'm instituting to try to like rejuvenate myself. And I think just like how we can lose ourselves in falling away from the things we first loved, I think that could happen spiritually. And it's not that like I lack in my spiritual disciplines, but there were some things I think early on in my life that I just enjoyed spiritually that I don't get to do as much anymore, right? Like my Bible reading was probably an hour and it didn't feel rushed. Now it's kind of like, all right, I have a specific amount of time that I got to do because I got to get to the next thing. And so, anyway, that's kind of where I'm at and my thoughts on this.
Yeah, that's good, man. I mean, honestly, I think everything that you said and maybe some of the stuff I said are good remedies to this burnout thing. And I think another, maybe the last thing I'll add to that is, if you do feel burnout, it's okay to talk about it. Maybe not on Facebook, because you don't want your pastor thinking that you're ready to quit your job because he's gonna start finding somebody else. So,
Yeah.
but definitely having a friend, somebody that you can trust, and just come alongside and vent some of these frustrations. Obviously, pray, but having somebody to talk to that's wise, that's smart, that's been through some of the same things you've been through. Not somebody that's gonna be like, yeah, man, that job sucks. You need to, yeah, and not somebody like that, but somebody that's gonna encourage you, especially a mentor. Things like that. It's good to talk those things out, just because sometimes you just got to get it off your chest. It's like, man,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's been something that's been helpful for me and you, like calling each other during seasons of difficulty,
Mm-hmm.
and saying, bro, I am so livid right now. Like,
Yes.
because the reality is you need that, and not in a mode to gossip or speak bad of anybody, but
Yeah.
we're like tea kettles, as one of my professors in college described it, and you have to let that steam out, or you will explode. You know,
Yeah.
and so you don't want that, right? You don't want lashing out in anger, or what could happen is leaving a job prematurely. And so what you have to do
Mm-hmm.
is you have to like lay it out on the table, and you have to say, this
That's
is
right.
how I'm feeling. And you have to recognize, like, something, there are parts about this that I can't change. There's not a thing I could do about it. And God, but you also remember God is fully aware of where you are. And
Yeah.
that is an encouragement within itself. So I want to say thanks for being that for me.
Oh
Like,
man, thank you.
yeah, especially,
You've been that for me too, big
because
time.
yeah, and you know how I feel about language, and you've had to hear some.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well,
I shouldn't. Yeah, you probably need to take that out the podcast. I don't need people knowing I'm.
hey, they don't know what kind of language you're talking about.
Yeah, that's true. They don't know what type of language I'm
You just
talking
speak
about.
Bohemian.
Yeah, that's right. That is true. That is
That's
true.
right. Yeah, man. What you got going on this weekend?
Well, man, some really cool things. Uh, Tomorrow we're having a youth event for like girls in the morning and then guys in the evening or the afternoon, and so that's I'm handling the one specifically in the afternoon, but I'm probably helping out in the one in the morning too. I'm not sure. And then Sunday, we got services, trying out a new intern to lead worship in the junior high space,
Oh, all
and
right.
so yeah. So by the time this comes out, I think it's probably okay to say for me to say that, but I don't think people will know she's auditioning at the time. And
I'm
then,
hoping to do this Tuesday.
oh really?
Yeah, this is gonna be out Tuesday.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And then we shoot King and Country, and I'm not joking when I say this. Like, for King and Country
No, I know.
is
Yeah.
doing a cameo for our student choir for Christmas, a bumper video we have to shoot for Christmas. So they're shooting that tomorrow,
That's pretty cool.
and then we're shooting the bumper for the rest of that in the afternoon. So I'm preparing the kids, getting all the instruments ready. So, and then I got choir. I'm responsible for our student choir, and I love it. That's like literally my
Yeah.
favorite part of my job, and so I'm excited. And that kicks off Sunday evening, and so yeah, that's I kind of got a insane weekend, really.
Yeah, man. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
What about
exciting.
you?
Yeah. Well, our weekend, pretty. I guess slow weekend for me as far as like family and stuff. We do have obviously our service on Sunday morning. Had a great rehearsal for that last night, and we got a lot of stuff coming up. We got youth takeover, kids takeover. My wife's having a baby. I'm actually the week before that. I'm leading worship at a church that she grew up at. Just me and a guy on cajon. I'll probably be on keys, and
Oh
so I'm
wow.
excited about that. Kind of just lay it back a little bit, give my interns a chance to lead here. Leading at a youth workers weekend is what it's called. It's like a youth leadership conference. Our team is our whole team, so that'll be pretty interesting. So stuff like that.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. And for the channel, though, I got a video coming out not this Tuesday, but next, because I want this podcast out Tuesday. Is about rehearsal and what I feel is the best rehearsal format like ever. we'll see. I'll probably change it.
Yeah.
Next year, and then have to do a new video. But this is anyway. It's supposed to be a good video, and we got some other stuff, planned on paper anyway right now as far as videos that I got coming up. But
Yeah. No, that's
have you written anything for your next set of videos?
So I got a couple things. So I'm working on an arrangement of it as well, and you could actually check out part of it on my shorts, and then I'm really excited because I always like being creative. So I finished part of it, trying to finish the rest. I think I might have finished. Anyway, I got to look at my notes. So what I do is I take that and then I make a bunch of lessons off of that. So that's
okay,
so like that's why sometimes people will see like, well, why is he using the same song? It's because like I've worked on something and then I'm taking some ideas from that. So that's one thing. I recently, man, I made a worship course in March. Just got edited.
Okay.
So finally finished. So it's going up on the website probably next week because I don't have the bandwidth this weekend. And then I'm working on, I've made a series of gospel passing chords videos, like between Worship Leader Hangout and the other channel. So anyway, I made that with the idea of putting them all together into a course. And so I'm putting that out. And then what's coming out new for Worship Leader Hangout is I realize a lot of musicians are struggling with rhythm. Like piano players and rhythm, you guys are atrocious. I'm sorry. Especially when you come from a classical background. And it's the truth. Like, y'all got issues. So I'm working on, that is like my next big thing, is ideas around rhythm. Because if you can figure out rhythm, oh my gosh, you can make a basic C major chord sound amazing. But if you have no rhythm, there's nothing you can do. You're gonna always feel like you need to do more with your hands, right? So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I last thing that I got working on, I didn't say this, but since you were a little more descriptive, I'm hopefully going to be putting this out after the best rehearsal format, is how I learned to play piano in all 12 keys. So I am reaching back to some of the stuff that you showed me a while back, reaching back a little bit to college and some stuff I learned there. So it's definitely not going to be how everybody should learn to play in all 12 keys, but it's how I learned how to play in all 12 keys. Oh, cool. So I hope it'll be good. I hope somebody can glean from that or learn from that. So regardless, I'm going to still do it. So
that's cool.
I'm excited about that.
That's cool.
Because all keys matter. We know that.
Yeah.
We need to be able to play in all of
Did that shirt come out?
It is. Well, yes. Me and you are going to release it at the same time. I really want to, because we were trying to do it for the podcast, but yes, we're going to release it at the same time.
Okay. Sounds good.
That video, maybe you can talk about it in your video around that same time. And then, so I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But it's out. If you want to check it out, it is out. It's on our website.
Cool.
So,
well, hey man, it's been good chatting with you.
Yes, sir.
I got to get ready for this insane weekend. And I'm sure you got a whole bunch.
My intern showed up 3 hours early, so I'm probably going to go talk to him and get him started. Well, he's probably already started on lights, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a guitar lesson. So,
oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, man.
That's cool. That's something else I miss too,
sir.
man. Like working directly with people, like just simple lessons, you know. That's why I still enjoy the channel, like, because I get to meet so many people, you know, through the different avenues, you know. So
yeah, of course.
Awesome. Well,
yeah. All right, brother. Well, I will talk to you later. And thank you guys so much for watching this or listening to this podcast. We want you to subscribe and get connected with Worship Leader Hangout and what all we do here. Again, thank you so much for watching and listening. We love you. And remember, great worship leaders are always learning. We'll see you next time.